Let's start with a car, because the car changes everything. At 2:28 in the morning on February 1st, Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker sent its last signal. That device had been tracking her heart, syncing wirelessly to her iPhone, doing what it was designed to do, until it stopped. 8 minutes later, a vehicle appeared on a Ring camera 2.5 miles from her home. NBC's correspondent drove the exact route between those two locations. It took 6 minutes. The sheriff confirmed the timing matches. That 2-minute margin, the gap between 6 minutes of driving and 8 minutes of silence, is exactly what you would expect from someone who paused at the end of Nancy's street, checked their mirrors, confirmed the road was empty, then quietly accelerated away. 1 month later, no arrest. But the car? The car is a thread that does not stop pulling. Retired NYPD detective Pat Brazen reviewed the Ring camera footage with his team and assessed that the vehicle captured at 2:36 a.m. is a Kia Soul. Not a van, not a pickup, a compact crossover. The kind of vehicle that parks in any neighborhood at any hour and draws zero attention. The kind of car a sleepless neighbor glances at through a window and immediately forgets. If you were designing a vehicle for an operation that requires invisibility above everything else, a Kia Soul is nearly a perfect choice. Common, quiet, forgettable. Now consider the location of that camera. The couple who owns it, Elias and Danielle Stratigolis, live on Camino Royale, a residential back road that avoids every major intersection between the Guthrie neighborhood and the arterial roads leading out of the Catalina foothills. Between midnight and 6 a.m. on February 1st, their camera recorded 12 vehicles. One appeared at 2:36 a.m. And here is the critical detail. The Stratigolis lived 2.5 miles from Nancy's home. The FBI's initial canvas radius was 2 miles. This footage sat half a mile outside the search perimeter. No one from law enforcement knocked on their door. No investigator asked for their footage. They came forward on their own after watching news coverage and realizing their camera might matter. Which raises an uncomfortable question. How many other cameras between 2 and 5 miles from Nancy's home captured something relevant and no one has asked for it yet? The sheriff confirmed on February 27th that investigators had expanded their vehicle review to areas farther from the crime scene. That confirmation came 26 days after the abduction. 26 days before anyone officially acknowledged the original perimeter may have been too small. When the Stratigolis footage became public, it looked like a breakthrough. 12 vehicles, a specific time window. Match a plate to a suspect and the case cracks open. Then TMZ reported that an investigation source called the footage a dead end. How does the FBI conclude that 12 vehicles near a kidnapping scene during the exact window of the crime are all irrelevant? 3 possibilities. 1. They identified every driver and confirmed no connection to the case, which requires registration lookups, interviews, and cross-referencing across the full tip database. 2. The footage doesn't meet evidentiary standards. 3, and this is the one worth sitting with, they already know which vehicle was used, and none of the 12 match it. If that third scenario is true, the FBI has identified the suspect's car through other footage, possibly from the 10,000 hours of video they have been processing, and has chosen not to disclose it. ABC News put it carefully. Investigators have had glimpses of vehicles from various cameras, but have not yet associated a particular vehicle with the kidnapping. That language is precise. It does not say they have no lead. It says they haven't confirmed one yet. There is a significant difference between no information and unconfirmed information. One is a dead end. The other is an active case. If Brazen's Kia Soul identification holds, Arizona vehicle records contain the registration of every Kia Soul in Pima County. Cross-reference that list against people connected to the case. Then narrow it to owners within 10 miles of Nancy's home. Then narrow further to phones that went dark between midnight and 4 a.m. on February 1st. That list could collapse to a single name. License plate readers along Tucson's arterial roads capture plates continuously. If the same vehicle appeared near Nancy's neighborhood on January 11th, January 23rd, and February 1st, the 3 dates investigators have flagged, that pattern is already in the system. Former FBI agent and CIA officer Tracy Walder reviewed the doorbell camera footage and identified what appears to be an antenna protruding from the suspect's jacket. She assessed 2 possibilities: a walkie-talkie or a signal jammer. The walkie-talkie theory is significant because of what it eliminates. A walkie-talkie does not generate cell tower records. It does not connect to Wi-Fi. It leaves no digital footprint. If the suspect was coordinating with a second person, a driver staged on Camino Royale waiting for a signal to move, a walkie-talkie is the only communication method that avoids the tower analysis the FBI is running. Walder stated it plainly. If there is someone else who helped, that would be a way you would not want to use a cell phone to communicate. That is the architecture of a 2-person operation described by a former federal agent. An operative enters the house. A driver waits. At 2:28 a.m., the pacemaker disconnects. The signal goes out. The car moves. By 2:36 a.m., it is 2.5 miles and accelerating. The signal jammer theory explains something different. Nancy's Nest camera went offline at 1:47 a.m. Her pacemaker lost Bluetooth connection at 2:28 a.m. Both devices rely on wireless signals. If a jammer was activated as the suspect approached, it could have killed the camera's transmission before it captured anything complete. Walder added one more observation. She doesn't believe the suspect brought a cell phone to the scene. Her reasoning, if he had, investigators would have identified him through tower data already. The digital blackout was deliberate. And digital forensics expert Heather Barnhart, who worked the Bryan Kohberger murder case, reinforced this. The absence of a signal can be as revealing as the signal itself. A phone that pings towers continuously every night and then goes dark for 3 hours on February 1st creates a gap that functions as a digital fingerprint. Barnhart put it simply, your phone is the silent witness to your life. Bryan Kohberger turned his phone off before driving to Moscow, Idaho. He believed eliminating the signal would eliminate the trail. What investigators found instead was the inverse, a 3-hour window of silence that correlated with the crime timeline and became the backbone of the prosecution. If the suspect in this case, or anyone connected to them, turned a phone off between midnight and 4 a.m. on February 1st, that blackout is already visible in the tower data. The pattern of silence, repeated across multiple dates, becomes a behavioral signature more damaging than any GPS coordinate. After the FBI released its doorbell camera footage, 4 major networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, each independently reported through law enforcement sources that the suspect had visited Nancy's porch before the night of the abduction. The evidence cited was consistent and specific. One FBI image shows the suspect without a backpack or holstered weapon. The video shows him with both. Same clothing, different equipment load. 2 visits on 2 different dates. On February 28th, the Pima County Sheriff's Department called this theory purely speculative. They said there are no timestamps to prove the individual visited on different days. 4 networks, 4 independent sources, 1 public denial. One of 2 things is true. Either ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN simultaneously published false-sourced reporting in a coordinated journalistic failure that has no modern precedent, or the sources in law enforcement were telling the truth and the public denial is a deliberate strategy. If it is a strategy, it serves a purpose. If the suspect believes investigators can prove 1 visit, he constructs an alibi for 1 night. If he knows they can prove 3 or 4 nights, he must account for 3 or 4 nights. An exponentially harder defense to build. Denying the multiple visits publicly while investigating them privately is counterintelligence methodology. Tell the target less than you know. Let them commit to a story you can dismantle. Domenico Evans went to the New York Times. He gave 40 minutes of denial on the record. His height, build, and facial hair matched the FBI suspect description.
He hasn't heard from investigators since. Whether that interview was innocent man clearing his name or a calculated act of narrative control, only the forensic evidence can determine. But Domenico Evans spoke. Tommaso Cleone has not. 30 days. The last known person to see Nancy Guthrie alive, the man who walked her to her door at 9:50 p.m., the man who touched her gate, who looked directly at her camera and drove away into the desert night, has not posted a video, issued a statement, appeared beside his wife during her public pleas, or shown any public act of grief or solidarity in 5 weeks. Savannah offered $1 million and broke down on camera saying her mother may be dead. Annie cooperated so thoroughly that investigators searched her property and took her car. Cameron spoke directly to the kidnapper on video. Tommaso Cleone has